The woke tide is rolling at the University of Alabama, and now one professor is quitting his job at the school. He says woke priorities have taken over, writing in a Twitter thread, quote, "The rise of illiberalism in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion is the antithesis of the principles that universities were founded on." Dr. Matthew Wailuki wrote that. He's an earth sciences professor at the University of Alabama, at least for a short time more. He joins us now. Doctor, what was the final straw for you?
As I posted in that thread, I just want to be clear that the real driver for us to leave Alabama and move to Colorado is really being closer to family. But what made it easier is this rise of illiberalism. And I don't think it's one thing that broke the camel's back. It's every decision in academia is framed in this lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's acceptance of students to funding of grants. And it's the exact opposite of what I think Dr. Martin Luther King, who we celebrated last week, was talking about when he talked about judging people by the content of their character. And that's not what we're doing in academia anymore.
So what is that DEI push doing to our universities?
Well, I think that it's discouraging a lot of people. I think that it is increasing the number of minorities we have in the universities, but I think in the outcomes that we see, it's not having a positive effect. In fact, we look at the numbers. NSF provides us the numbers with the number of minorities that are within certain STEM fields. And what we find is that although those numbers have increased slightly, we don't see that they're being hired into the industry and into the fields coming out of the universities. The outcomes of these students are not getting better. This has become some way of universities trying to build up their virtue signaling by the number of minority students without really concern of whether those students are being successful once they leave those universities. And I think that's exactly the opposite of what we should be thinking about when we're teaching our students. Our goal is to provide them a foundation to have a successful career in the future, and those outcomes are not occurring.
Those are some fascinating stats that you just gave to us. Really, really interesting evidence that I was unaware of. Meantime, in your field, earth sciences, you talk of the false climate emergency, your words. You're saying it has serious health consequences, particularly in the mental health space. Why do you say that?
So I see this directly from my students. I talk to them, I ask them, I really probe them about how they feel about climate, what their future ambitions are. And I see that this constant catastrophism is robbing their ambitions. They don't see their future as bright and fruitful. I've had multiple students come to me and tell me they no longer plan on having a family because they don't think raising children in this world will be a smart idea because the planet is going to end. This is the exact opposite of how we would motivate young people to be good stewards of the environment and to look at their future and be responsible and make sacrifices now so that they could have a brighter future. It's just the exact opposite of what we should be doing if we're trying to motivate young people to be good stewards of the environment.
You call yourself a classical liberal. That's how I would describe 95% of my professors when I was in college back in the day, 96 to 2000. But is there a place for you and people like you in our university system anymore?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I think that it was clear to me that speaking up about things like climate and DEI was career suicide, and I think it really was. I hope that a few more people like me that go through this will allow more discussion. This is part of this illiberalism that even asking questions or talking about outcomes and possible unforeseen consequences, I think DEI, they're probably have their hearts in the right place. I agree we should have more inclusivity. I think the climate folks want to protect the planet. Right. But the unforeseen consequences, just asking questions, having discussions, now makes you a heretic. It makes you somebody that is, ostracized. And we have no longer these discussions.
That's not how education is supposed to be.
Absolutely not.
Professor,
that's exactly right.
We wish you the very best. Professor Wailuki, thanks for joining us this morning. Best of luck to you. Thanks for highlighting this problem.
Thank you, guys.